Hey, this is Ricky from Suffocation. You're watching RichardMetalFan.
Hey, what's up, guys? Episode 195 of Richard Metal Fan Interviews, calling from Zoom, and I'm here with Ricky Myers from the legendary Suffocation. He is also in Disgorge, Cinerary, Sarcolytic, and Serpent's Whisper. So how are you doing today,
Sarcolytic.
Ricky?
I'm doing good. How are you, bud?
Not too bad, not too bad. Had a long day of work, and I'm a bit relaxed a little bit, and I'm ready for an interview with you today. Glad to be able to talk with you.
Nice. Sounds good. Good to talk to you, man.
Hell yeah. So kind of like the format is I want to do like a rundown of your discography and talk about like your musical history as well as the new Suffocation album. But before we go into that, take me back to young Ricky Myers. So kind of growing up, what were the first bands that got you into metal and what made you want to be a vocalist?
Um, I would say like Kiss is like the first major band. Kiss, Motley Crue. I grew up on hair band, metal bands because I played guitar first, so I really dug the guitar playing, Yngwie Malmsteen, stuff like that. And yeah, basically, I actually became a guitar player first, a bass player, a drummer, and then finally a vocalist where I'm at now.
Oh wow. You might as well just do a solo career if you could be like a
Yeah, right.
multi-instrumentalist.
So yeah. The whole play everything. Fuck it, record it.
Hell yeah. So were you in any other bands before starting up Disgorge, or was like Disgorge like your first band?
That was my first band, and I started that band when I was in high school, when I was 17 years old.
Wow.
And
Oh,
yeah, that was the only band I've ever been in.
yeah. And are you aware there's like too many other Disgorges out there? There's like a Disgorge from like Mexico, and there's like I see on like Metal Archives there's like like seven Disgorges.
That's crazy. I haven't really kept up on at the time when I remember the Mexico one. That's the only one I knew of.
Yeah. I wonder if y'all ever got into like any legal issues, like try to like over the name and shit.
Yeah, the Mexican Discord, they had tried something before about that, but we started in '91. They said they started and around the same time or before us, so it was like a conflict, but nothing ever came of it.
All right. And I guess the first thing with Disgorge, you did the Cognitive Lust of Mutilation demo from 92. Tell me about like that. Where was that recorded at?
We did that at Jim Barnes up in Santa Fe, California, and we lived in Hesperia, the high desert up here in Cali. And we went down there. We heard some demos he did, and we went over there and traveled over there and recorded.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a very raw sounding demo. Same thing with the 95 demo. Oh, was that
We
like
did
just
both.
yeah, oh yeah, you did both. Both. Was that like something that helped just like send to labels to eventually get signed?
Yeah, that was just a totally demo, just to get the exposure out there and stuff like that.
Yeah. And then of course, I believe you got signed to your first label, which was called Extremities Productions. How did they find Disgorge?
Steve Miller, he was actually a friend of Eric Lindmark's from Deeds of Flesh,
Oh
and
wow.
yeah, and he actually real good friends, and he started his little label and stuff, and we're the first band he put on it. So
Yeah. And tell me about making like the first full length, Cranial Impalement. So what was like the thought process going into making that album?
just chaos. We were just trying to play as crazy as we could at the time. You had Suffocation and all these bands that were coming up and stuff, but we just wanted to take it even farther if we could. Not repeating rhythms and fucking trying to play as fast as you fucking can, blasting the whole time. So
Yeah.
that was our mission, anyways, to be as brutal as we could.
Yeah, and I kind of like how you just like redid some of the songs that were from the demos. Like you just wanted to like refine it in a way.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's playing skills were better, and plus a better production. That production was better.
Yeah, and I especially love like you're a hell of a drummer on that album. Like you have a very complex style of playing, which fits perfectly within like the brutal death metal that Disgorge plays.
Thank you, I appreciate it, man. Yeah, that was my game, my whole thing, man. Blasting and just playing as crazy as I could.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there like any like differences between like playing drums versus like being a vocalist? Are you able to like express like a different side of you, like musically or creatively?
Yeah, I mean, as a vocalist, now that I play with Suffolk, uh, they're very talented musicians. You know what I mean? So you step back and you look at the whole thing, like making songs. Before I'm just like, let's just play as much crazy shit as we possibly can. But with Suffolk, it's like, yo, we need to make songs, and actually have some kind of structure. So yeah, it's definitely changed. And then plus, Disgorge had no pronunciation, and to where Suffocation was ranked was a lot of pronunciation, but still, you know, deep. So that changed my my vision on that too. Everything's changed really.
Yeah, and hard to believe, like, coming up is the 25th anniversary of cranial impalement. So do you have like a certain viewpoint about it now as opposed to when you first put it out?
No, you know, I mean, when I made that album, I loved it. You know what I mean? And you always want to make music first for yourself, and if other people like it, that's great. But as far as that, no, you know, I always enjoy that album.
Yeah. Yeah, it's still, like, in my opinion, a very underrated death metal debut album.
No, cool. Thanks, man.
Yeah. And then it was like right after that, you did the second album, She Lay Gutted. Now, because usually with the debut album, you have like your entire life to write, and there's a lot of hype with the first album. When it came to making She Lay Gutted, did you feel pressure to follow up Cranial Impalement?
Uh, no, not really. I had a hard time finding members. I had lost Tony Freithoffer, and I found Diego Sanchez and Ben Marlin. They were in a band called Strangulation up in Escondido, California. I lived in San Diego at the time, and he approached me and said, "Man, we should jam sometime." And then we just took on the name Disgorge and said, "Why don't we just use Disgorge? Because I've already done so much with it. Let's just continue." And he was like, "Okay, let's do it." And that came from there. So I didn't feel no pressure at all, though, for that album at all.
Yeah, and it's like a quick literally like came out like the same year. Like, did you like start like writing right away after Cranial Impalement?
Yeah, well, actually, I think we were writing. Well, and actually, you know what? Cranial Impalement came out in '96. That's when it was finished. So that was released on a label later.
Oh,
that's what happened.
Yeah,
so when that got released, so we had plenty of time. I mean, me and Diego, we recorded practically about a year and a half to do She Lay Gutted.
Yeah. Yeah, which is because like I think it was Metal Archives like kind of lied because even though some of those songs are like older songs from like the first couple demos.
I think what we did, they weren't older songs. What we did is we took some parts from the very first demo, Acts of Suffering. We took some rhythms from there, but we didn't take the whole song. We just took rhythms that we liked and put them in these songs. That was really only one song that we did that actually.
Yeah. Yeah, but I still think it's a great album, both Cranial and She Lay.
Yeah. Thank you, man.
Yeah.
It's a good time.
And kind of breaking away from Disgorge, I know in 2001 you did Scenary with the Rituals of Desecration EP from 2001. Tell me about like that. How did you end up hooking up with those guys?
Let me see. He was in a band called Insidious, and I've known Maddie way obviously from Disgorge and all that. So they just asked me if I would session drums real quick and just lay something down. So I learned those songs. That was rushed. That was pretty rushed. Because back then we didn't have metronomes and punching in and punching out and shit like that. Everything was live. So
that
was a bitch.
Yeah, and I know it's like so far the only release from them. Like, is there any chance you'll work with them in the future, or is it nah?
Yeah. As far as drumming right now, man, if I'm doing anything, it would be Disgorge. But as far as that, but right now, no. Ray, I don't know. I'm not sure what Maddie's doing or anything else. I know he's running Unique Leader now, so I don't know.
Yeah, and I think Unique Leader is killing it with all like great bands from that, which I know like Ingested was on there for a little bit. I think Archaic, like it's hard. I think that's just everybody any bands I know from that label that I don't know if they're still on there or they switch labels.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but yeah, it seems like Unique Leader, they got a good ear, man, for shit that's coming out. Maddie's got a good ear for brutal shit. And it's like they use them as a stepping stone and go, to a bigger label, So I think Signs of the Swarm was on there at one point, and so there was a lot of bands that were on there.
Yeah, and then we get back to Disgorge with the Consume the Forsaken. Again, tell me about like that. What was the thought process making that album?
That was the same thing. We were just trying to play as crazy and as fast as we could. We had just did our first, our U.S. tours and touring the world and stuff, and we just wanted to play as crazy, even make it more crazy, more fast,
Yeah. Yeah, I still love that album too. I think it's very underrated in my opinion.
Yeah, I like that album. I like that album a lot, actually.
Yeah. And I also want to touch upon briefly Martyred. Like, tell me about that, because I don't think nobody ever talks about that.
Yeah, I really didn't do anything with Martyred. That the person who played the drums on there, they couldn't do it no more. I joined the band, and at the time they were about to do a video, so I sat in on it. But I never actually went to the studio or anything with them.
Oh.
And they disbanded shortly after that. So
Yeah. Well, I heard that they are back together. And of course, my friend Ray Martinez, former drummer of Stabbing, is now playing with them.
oh, Renee is playing. Oh yeah, Renee's playing with them. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I met Renee. But I was glad I got to see him play once, because I've met him through his wife, Meryl, who I've known Meryl back when she was living in Atlanta.
Yeah. Yeah, Renee's awesome, man. It's sad that him and his girl, man, they're in the band no more, Stabbing,
Yeah, yeah. I heard there was like some like drama and shit, which of course I'm not getting into that.
Right. Yeah, I
That's
have
like
no
another.
idea what happened.
That's
Yeah.
just from like
I just ashamed.
speculation.
Renee's a good guy, man. I've known Renee a long time, and he's a sick fucking drummer, man.
Hell yeah, yeah. He fucking kills it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then of course the last Disgorge album, Parallels of Infinite Torture. I think that's a pretty good album. Probably, in my opinion, my favorite Disgorge album. So tell me about like that album.
That we spent a lot of time on that album. Yeah, same thing. We spent more time on the vocals that time. We had Levi at the time, and that album was more thought out prior to any other album. We were starting to evolve, as musicians and stuff. So yeah, that was the best one. And it was a shame that after that, Benny had passed away. So
Yeah. Yeah, and being as it has been now like 18 years since the last Disgorge album, is there any plans on making any new albums or
yeah,
nah?
well, me and Diego talked about doing an EP. I told him after I do all this stuff right now, because I was pressured for this album, recording and getting the vocals ready. So we talked about doing an EP, but we'll see. He's busy too, with his band. So it's yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. We just talked not too long ago, so
Yeah. And then tell me about like Sarcolytic.
that's Sarcolytic.
Sarcolytic. That was my fault. I fucked up the pronunciation.
No, you're all good. You're all good. That band that was with John Zig, the artist and vocalist, and Steven and Mark. And I lived in Austin at the time, and we just got together. It was like, let's jam, and we clicked it. We hit it off. So we just started writing songs.
Yeah, cool. And I know like this year does mark 20 years of Sarcolytic as a band. So did you think that it would all be around for 20 years?
No, no, I don't think anything's ever going to be around. You know what I mean? Nothing's ever for sure, but it's cool. It's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Like you pretty much had the same member since the formation, like 20 years. Like I don't think nobody's left the band, like, which is very rare for a band to have like the same lineup.
Yeah, we all agreed if if one of us can't do it, we're not going to do the band. Same with Disgorge. We had the same thing agreement. Like if we can't do it, me and Diego, we're not going to do it. So
Yeah.
no one's going to move on and keep doing same with Sarcolytic. We told if none of us are going to do it, then we'll just wait until we're ready and do something.
Yeah. Yeah, and the same thing, because I know one other band, for example, is Rammstein. Like they've had the same lineup forever. And if they get burned out, they just do like other side projects and then come back like with their heads on straight.
Yeah. I mean, listen, there's no look at the position I'm in right now. There's nothing wrong with getting new members as long as it fits the situation,
Yeah.
and you're not changing the whole entire fucking band.
Yeah.
Once it starts sounding different, that's when it's a problem.
Hell yeah. Yeah, and tell me about making the debut Sarcolytic EP, which was just self-titled. So, and tell me about like that. And of course, you got signed with Lacerated Enemy Records. Was that like a little local label?
Yeah, that was just a local label, and yeah, we just went in and re-recorded it. We're just trying to get our name out, seeing what happens. And it just so happens that Diego had approached me to go back to Cali with that. So we didn't do anything after the full length. But the process was basically the same. All the process of my writing has always been the same. I put 110% into whatever I'm doing. So
yeah, it's only like three songs, like Activism, Infernal, Shifting Forms, and Wine Like Clotted Blood. It's just like brutal to the point and in your face, which I love about death metal.
And then there's a full length after that, though.
Yeah, The Arcane Progeny.
The Arcane Progeny, yeah.
The Arcane Prodigy.
Yeah.
Gee, what was like that process like? Because so far it's like the only like release, like your most recent release to date.
Yeah, same process. John Zay came in, wrote a bunch of lyrics. We had a concept about the he wanted to do. So we based it around that. We worked hard on that album, but we recorded in a where we practiced. They had a studio upstairs, and we recorded it there with our friends.
Yeah, yeah, especially like the arcane, like the title track just starts off with a banger, and even like songs like The Seed of All Beginnings, like
Yeah,
Manus Obscurus, Emissary, like everything about that album is just perfect from start to finish.
yeah. Thank you, man. No, it's a good album. John Zig really did good on the vocals and the lyrics on that one. It was really good.
Yeah. And then we get to Serpent's Whisper. You hooked up with them in 2017, and so far you only did like the one song called Divine Manipulation, which I've heard trying to prepare for this interview, and it's just a fucking ripper of a song. And so far I'm really wanting some more Serpent's Whisper. Is there ever a chance you'll do any more? Is it just like your main focus is Suffo?
Well, my main focus right now is going to be completely Suffo. But Serpent's Whisper, I just saw Damien and the old bass player for Nile, Brad.
Yeah, Brad's my homie.
Yeah, he's awesome, man. I love that guy.
Yeah.
And we talked. We're at a festival in Mexico, and we're like, let's do some more songs. And Damien says he has rhythm, so whenever they're down, I'm always down.
Oh yeah. And then, of course, you joined up with Suffocation. So, how did you end up hooking up with like Terrence and everybody?
I knew Terrence. I used to go watch him when they first started touring, man, for Breeding the Spawn. And Disgorge actually opened up for him in Anaheim. And we just became good friends, man. We started hanging out, talking every time they came in tour. And then, yeah, I just went from there. And then Derek Boyer, one of my good friends I grew up with, he started playing bass. And yeah, so I thought that was cool. So he's playing bass with them. And I went down there and brought Disgorge to a show. And I brought an album what I was doing. And I was doing the lyrics and the vocals on it, pre-production. And I put it on the bus, and they're like, "Who's singing?" I said, "That's me." They're like, "Well, what?" I'm like, "Yeah." And Derek was walking me out to my car. And he's like, "If I sent you a Suffocation song, would you fucking put vocals on it?" And I laughed. I'm like, "Yeah, okay, dude." I blew him off because I thought he was bullshitting me. We're buzzed and shit. And 2 days later, he fucking sent me the song. And I recorded it, and they sent it back. Funny thing is when I sent him the song, Frank was on the bus, and he goes, "Where did you get my demos?" He thought it was him.
Yeah.
And they're like, "No, man, that's Ricky." And Frank's off, "That's your guy right there. That's who you want to get." So that's how it happened. That's how I got the job.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember the first time I ever saw Suffocation was April of 2016 at the Old Masquerade. You did that tour with Soulfly, Battlecross.
Oh, yeah.
And that was like my first time seeing Suffocation. And then I actually saw you like 4 months later. You were a part of that Summer Slaughter tour with the Cannibal Corpse and Nile, which is still, in my opinion, probably the best Summer Slaughter.
Yeah, it was. That was a killer Summer Slaughter, man.
Yeah, and really yeah, and of course the last show of that was, of course, at the Old Masquerade in Atlanta, and that was probably one of the best days of my life.
Yeah, sick, man. Yeah, that was a really good tour, man. A lot of good bands on that one.
Yeah, and I think I've seen Suffocation. I can't remember how many times, like 5, 6, 7 times.
Yeah.
Times cool. That, of course, and I was lucky I got to see them in 20. Probably my favorite Suffocation show was probably 2018 with when was the Farewell to Frank tour with Cattle towards the end. Yeah, and I remember meeting Frank Mullen, and I never knew how lucky I was.
Yeah, he's a good dude, man.
Yeah, and so when you joined up with Suffocation, were you kind of like nervous, like being like the new singer? Because anytime when band members changes singers, there's always the thing of like, will it work or will it kill the band? And because, like, for example, with like Iron Maiden, like when Paul Di'Anno left the band due to like drugs or something, and they got Bruce Dickinson in, a lot of people were thinking like, would they continue on or be the same? But then they put out Number of the Beast, and it's still one of the best metal albums of all time.
Yeah, that's a killer album. Yeah, that's a killer. No, I think that is always in the back of your mind, and you do have to take a lot of criticism. I mean, people just talk shit after shit after shit, and it's like, just how strong-minded are you, and you do feel this is right, and your band members feel it's right, to carry it out. And that's basically what we did.
Yeah, and I remember seeing like live videos, and I've seen some comments, and I don't think I've really seen any bad comments at all. A lot of people have been welcoming.
So recently, yeah, I mean, now that the songs are coming out, and people are accepting it, and I've been here for a while, but in the beginning it was pretty hard, man. The no Frank, no Suppo was mentioned, and people at shows go, "Where's Frank?" and shit. And of course, you're like, fuck, it's a pain in the ass, but whatever.
Yeah, 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 and of course you mentioned like there's always the comparisons. Like you pretty much sound exactly like Frank. Frank, does that sound? Does that do you take that as a compliment, or do you try to like just do your own thing?
I mean, in the beginning, I was learning so much Frank and listening to him try to emulate him as much. But at some point, you got to go, I'm not Frank, I'm Ricky. And you got to go with what you can do, you know? And I, the guys in my band is what matters the most. And whatever they want me to do, you guys okay with this? Yeah, we're good with it. And that's what we went with.
Yeah, yeah, and then of course you have the new Suffocation album, Hymns from the Apocalyptic, coming out November 3rd. So, what was the whole writing and recording process like, being as it was like your first record with the band?
That was, yeah, I mean, I worked hard on this album, man. I must have recorded each song like 20 times, maybe each different versions. So I could go in and take what parts I liked and what I thought was the best parts. And it was the last 4 years I've nonstop been writing on tour, on my bunk. I just been nonstop coming up with the concept, making sure everything flowed. So I put a lot of work into this album.
Yeah, and how does it feel like in terms of like the lyrical process, like how did that work compared to like with like some of like other projects that you were with?
Um, well, mostly what Disgorge was anti-religion and stuff like that, and like gory. But this one, I had a concept. I started reading these books about the fallen angels, the Book of Enoch that was taken out of the Bible, and I never really get to hear from what they call the fallen, these entities. So I switched it around, and said, what would they be thinking, or what would they say, and these things if you were to write a book about it. So I took it from their perspective, and how they're manipulating humanity, trying to make you kill yourself. People say they hear voices in their heads. So I just took it and ran with that.
Yeah, yeah, and especially with like addressing like the concept, is there like a lot of like research that goes in hand with addressing these concepts?
Absolutely. A lot of reading, it's like you stumble upon these things. I started reading books about the Anunnaki and just all kinds of stuff, Ezekiel, scriptures that are taken out of the Bible and stuff like that. So yeah, I get a lot of research on it.
Yeah. And when it comes to like when writing lyrics, because I always like to talk with the vocalists about like writing lyrics, because usually I get like, if I ask like 10 different vocalists, I get like 10 different answers. But when it comes to like your lyrical process, do you have to like put yourself in like a certain mind frame when coming up with lyrics, or just the lyrics come like naturally and organically for you?
Uh, yeah, some places don't get in some dark places sometimes, man. But yeah, I like to be alone by myself and just in thought when I do it.
Yeah.
It's weird because like for me, it's when you get a part, you're like, it's the part, it's like you don't move on. If you come back to it, then it's not right.
Yeah.
So once you hit it, you're like, yeah, that's it. So
Yeah.
that's basically my process.
Yeah. Now, of course, like obviously, because I know you're heard like you're the new guy in the band. Like, what's in your opinion like your personal favorite album from Suffocation?
Leash, FSU the Forgotten.
Yeah, it's always like the first is the best. Like, there's always that debut charm. Like everybody say first is the best. Like I kind of love it too. I think it's a great debut album.
Yeah, I remember when I first heard that album, I was blown away, and I'll never forget that feeling. It was so brutal. Like nobody was doing vocals like that. No one was doing blast beats like that. They really changed the genre of this music. So now I'd say all three. I'd say that, Breeding the Spawn, and Pierce, hands down my favorite.
Yeah,
It just in that point, I just feel like they were so brutal. They were so brutal at that point, man.
yeah, I still love Effigy. Like I put up there with like best death metal debuts. I put it up there with like Eaten Back to Life. I put it up there with Dawn of Possession. Shouldn't I put it up there with fucking Slowly We Rot? I think it's just like that up there with like the classic death metals.
Absolutely. If you're going to name the top albums of the '90s, death metal, that would definitely be. It has to be, in my opinion.
Yeah, like there's no contest at all.
Yeah, I mean, you got Leech, who did the first slam right there, basically.
Yeah, yeah, and kind of like going into like the live shows, because is there like a different, similar energy to like playing live as opposed to like recording, or they're kind of like different?
No, they're totally different. Yeah. When you get on stage, you're having fun, man. On stage, it's like you do all this practicing up to go to the stage, so you don't have to think about it and you just let loose, man, and have a good time. But the studio, you want to focus and have your technique down and have everything, prepared.
Yeah, I noticed you also play with like a variety of different bands, because I know the first time I saw you was with the Soulfly, which is kind of like groove metal. Then you played Summer Slaughter with like Cannibal Corpse or death metal, but there was also like Carnifex, which are deathcore, and then After the Barrel, which is kind of like progressive kind
Yeah.
of like stuff. And then I know you did like the tours with Cattle Decap, which is just death metal again. Like, do you ever notice like a different like crowd reaction with the different tours?
Um, nah, not really. I mean, it seems like the people, if you're into metal, you're like it. Maybe not everybody's into it, but it's this is metal. It's music, and I think everybody appreciates it. As long as it's good.
Awesome. And kind of like in the end to wrap things up, what's next for Suffocation? Have you all got any like tours lined up?
Yeah, we have I have a show in Daytona this weekend, just a one-off, and then we got Mexico for 2 weeks, and then whole full U.S. tour with Incantation
My
and
boys.
stabbing actually,
Cool.
and Skeletal Remains, and then we go to Europe with Sangwa Sigabog
Yeah.
and Enterprise Earth.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I kind of wish that Incantation run was coming near me. I don't think there's no Atlanta date.
No, there isn't a. Oh, that's it. There isn't
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, but I'm definitely want to try to see y'all whenever you come back, because I'm really looking forward to the new album, because I've heard the first few songs and you sound fucking badass.
No, thank you, brother. Man. I appreciate it, man. Yeah, hopefully we'll be coming by there soon.
Hell yeah. So thank you, Ricky, for taking the time to do this interview. Great to be able to talk with you today. There's just any
Absolutely.
final words you want to say to the viewers that are watching this to close us out? And I'm so glad to finally have Suffocation on the show.
Yeah, man. Go get the new Suffocation album. I promise if you're into brutality, you won't be disappointed, man.
Hell yeah. So everybody, Ricky Myers from Suffocation. See you next time.